Hi everybody, this is Kellie Nightlinger, and I'm here with Wild Woman Outdoors. I think I'm going to adjust the camera just a little bit. And I want to talk to you today about some amazing ways that you can help fight and prevent disease and live a lifelong life full of health and longevity. So I'm going to be on my rebounder today. And so today I want to explain how you can use ancestral wisdom combined with modern science and how that can lead to a better life and a better lifestyle and more vitality and well-being. Specifically, we're going to talk yet again about light, water, and how our connection to Mother Earth can also help us provide ourselves and our body with energy. So you probably already know that all foods are broken down into electrons, and they help create the electron transport chain. And you've probably heard of the Krebs cycle, and you might already know that electrons create energy production. So in some of my earlier videos, I talked about EZ water, or exclusion zone water, and I'll recap what that is if you don't remember or you weren't watching that video. So in the cellular membrane, we have this fluid, this EZ water, and inside of that, in the center, we have the nucleus and the nuclear membrane, and inside that is where we have the mitochondria, which also helps create energy, or ATP, and adenosine triphosphate. And so that EZ water is the water that's between the nucleus, or the nuclear membrane, and the cell membrane, and that is created by our retinal pathway, melanopsin, and also by our entire body. Our skin has receptors that are sunlight receptors that help us create electrons through our skin and our subcutaneous fat, and even our cutaneous fat around our stomach. And so those that when the light comes in, it increases the ATP production also in the mitochondria. So when I say light, especially, it's important to face east, make like a sphinx, get on the ground, which is also creating more electrons because the ground has a negative charge. And so when you're grounded or earthing, sitting on the ground as our ancestors would, and you're looking east, sun gazing, ancient form of light therapy, as our ancestors would, looking east directly into the sun when the sun has first arisen, helps set all of our hormones and neural pathways for the day, helping set our circadian rhythm. And so we have the receptor, the melanopsin in our brain, and so that occurs also through our retinal pathway, where we make things like serotonin precursor, things like tryptophan, and so we also eventually are creating dopamine and melatonin, which is what the derivative, or what happens after we create serotonin. And we also are creating hydrogen and allowing that hydrogen to be sulfated, which is very important for the hormones in our body, including but not limited to vitamin D, which is actually a hormone, and all these other hormones in our endocrine system. And so not only is the light helping us to create energy, it's through nerve fibers is connected to all the organs in our body. And one way that that's done is through the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and which is located in the brain. And so that then goes to our receptor, and it actually also goes to our circadian clock, which is located in the brain as well. And so the receptor, the pineal gland, helps then take all of those nerves and take to all the organs in the body to help regulate, as I mentioned, the organs, but also the hormonal level, including our neurotransmission. So that light is also helping create easy water. And the more red and infrared light that we are absorbing through our skin and our retina, the more energy, the more electrons we're creating, the more EZ water, or exclusion zone water, which is creating that cellular capacitor. So if you didn't see that part, after you have that nucleus membrane, then you have this exclusion zone water. The water splits into two, and part becomes negatively charged, part becomes positively charged, and like likes light, like likes like. So, but in the middle we have the positive charge, and so what happens is that you have a lot of, and this isn't a one-dimensional, situation. It's at all multicellular levels. All the organelles inside that cell are affected, but it creates more negative charge, and it pushes away from the positively charged or the hydrophilic sources as well when it gets more negatively charged. So we're creating energy, number one, through the sun, but it's from food through the electron transport chain, but that's increased through the sun's ability through melanopsin and others to help increase the amount of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, or cellular energy that our body makes, and then that is also creating that cellular water, that easy water, which is yet exponentially adding more energy to each cell in our body. And so that's so important. And so you might not think of this, but our ancestors knew all of this stuff since there were ancestors. And so we need to expose all parts of our body to the infrared light. But if you're in an area where you can't do that, then certainly exposing your stomach and your eyes and any other areas that you can expose legally to the sun, if you're in a public area, is very, very important. And if you're in a northern latitude, you can't make vitamin D if you're north of, let's say, Atlanta, Georgia area, but you are taking in UVA light, which, by the way, helps prevent against the neuro diseases such as things like Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis and rheumatoid arthritis, and most likely also involving Alzheimer's and probably some forms of diabetes as well. And so even if you can't get out there to get the proper dose of wintertime infrared light because of our northern latitudes or southern latitudes for people that live in the south, then you can actually add a high lux white light for your morning light set, and there's a lot of products on the market. You can buy them used sometimes for as little as $15 on Facebook Marketplace or something else like that. And I do that. I bought 2 at garage sales and 1 at Facebook Marketplace. So there's no reason not to have your morning Lux light set, even if you live in a northern latitude. And then throughout the day you can invest in an LED low flicker red light, therapeutic light in the red spectrum, or an infrared, near or far infrared sauna, or build your own hot rock sauna, or as I do a lot, is sweat lodge. So our ancestors were using UV light, especially in the red spectrum, throughout the day. They didn't have any non-native EMF or electromagnetic fields. Let's talk another minute here why it's important to expose your your skin, i.e. especially your stomach, to the sun. So we are eukaryotic cells, and our gut bugs are prokaryotic cells. And 98% of our body is run by our gut bugs. And so we are bugs. We are the bugs that we eat. We are the bugs that we grow. And those prokaryotic cells produce 40% more light, and their energy, light energy, is from their light, so than a eukaryotic cell. And our eukaryotic cells also communicate and emanate light. So every cell in our body has its own electromagnetic frequency that it's emanating light through. And so that's really important. So we are truly sunlight beings, and we perform some of the steps of photosynthesis as I've discussed in the past. But I want to spend the rest of the time while I'm talking to you about why our health is failing and how you can change that. So worldwide, our longevity is increasing. In the United States, this generation is the first generation that will be predicted to live less than their parents unless we take some of these next steps. So we have basically created an environment where it's temperature regulated and artificially light regulated. So everything is artificial. We are causing ourselves civilization death. So we think we're getting smarter, we're getting more civilized. We went to these energy efficient LED lights, which are probably one of the most dangerous things that we are doing to our bodies today. So yes, do they save money? Of course. And it's harder and harder to find incandescent lights, especially ones in the red spectrum. And these are therapeutic lights. And also the halogen lights you can find in the proper spectrum. And they are more energy efficient and healthy altogether than any other light, other than the sun and the natural fire and things like candlelight. And so the LED lights, they're in the blue spectrum. You can find some that are in the red spectrum when there's therapeutic. But even with that, they have a flicker that you can't see with the naked eye. Do you remember a long time ago when we had old-fashioned TVs and you would see that flicker? How annoying that would be? Or have you ever seen an LED light that is kind of going out, or the circuit's going out and it starts flickering? Have you ever noticed when you're in areas where there's LED lights where you don't feel well and the light isn't natural? Well, that's your body's innate sense that this light is bad for you, because it is. So when we have this non-native light and non-native electromagnetic fields from our electrical wiring in our homes and especially when it's dirty electricity where there's improper wiring and you have shorts, or you just have basically rogue electricity. And we have Wi-Fi. If you don't turn your Wi-Fi router off when you're not using it, it's being detrimental to your overall health. So let's get back to the LED lights. So they're in the blue spectrum, and that does not allow your body to methylate, which means it does not allow your body to detox. And that means that you become toxic with the chronic burden of bad chemicals and pesticides, bad chemicals that are in products that we consume. Women consume typically over 200. A lot of it applied to our skin and our hair. And there's a lot of products now for men too, for skincare products. So most of those are unnatural, and they're causing us to be having a high toxic load, including our dentistry methods, where we've added mercury amalgams to our body. And even if you have them removed like I have, you'll get residue in the brain, and it's very hard to detox unless you improve your methylation. So if you improve your methylation, you also improve your ATP production, your energy production. Of course, when you're toxic, you don't have much energy, and that's where I was at. And so the flicker can affect everything from depression, neurodegeneration, to just how our body's endocrine system is functioning, and can be a lot of other downstream elements as well. And when we're not adding the red light in combination, because red light is the only way to counteract the blue light, and if we're not adding in natural sun and things like sauna and sweat lodges and steam baths and any other natural infrared sources and infrared man-made sources like LED saunas and near and far infrared, then we're not allowing ourselves to detox, and we're causing our body to be ready for a cellular shutdown. And so that also doesn't allow us to create riboflavin, or use it, I should say, and it doesn't allow us to create melanin and beta endorphins and melatonin, which is created from the serotonin precursor, and dopamine and neurotransmitters. It doesn't allow us to sulfate our blood. It doesn't allow us to sulfate vitamin D. So even if you're taking vitamin D, if it's not sulfated, it's not going to help. It doesn't allow us to create hydrogen sulfide, and it disrupts our energy, of course. And it also affects apoptosis and autophagy, where we take senescent cells and dead cells. And for example, autophagy means eat self. So in autophagy, your cells, when we're doing intermittent fasting or other ways of creating autophagy, the cell will eat itself. So the older cells that aren't very productive will be eaten, and they're food for other cells. And so these are important to note, and also it's important to note that not only is blue light bad if you're exposing your skin and your retina, but it also can penetrate our clothing. So my recommendation is, like right now, I only have natural light on other than my phone screen, and you can dim that down as well and make more of it out of the blue range. And if I have the blue lights in my house in a particular area, I only use those for a few split seconds to see what I need, and then the light goes off. And I try to get up before the sun and go to bed just after, and depending on the season. And then use things like candlelight and blue blockers if I'm going to be reading something or using non-native light to see after dark. And I would even limit your blue light in the form of all your LED blue lights during the day, because we're getting too much blue light. We're becoming blue light toxic. It's also creating low dopamine. And in my opinion, low dopamine causes most of the problems in this country. Low dopamine creates addicts, drug, heroin, alcohol, gambling, you name it, sex addicts. And low dopamine is what the school shooters all have in common, and people with depression. Most of our population now are on drugs, prescription drugs. In particular, a lot of people are on psychotropic drugs or other psychosis prevention drugs. And really, they just need more sunlight and more activities to raise the dopamine. And so low dopamine is also in a lot of people that create crimes, and the successful people in the world are very high dopamine typically. So if you want to raise your energy levels, raise your self-production, raise your health, longevity, vitality, you need to turn back to the ancient wisdom of our ancestors and be on the ground, earthing. You can use grounding sheets or grounding mats if you're indoors and you don't have the opportunity to be outdoors. Every hour, try to step outside for 5 minutes and look at the sun. Reset your circadian clock. Go to bed just after dark when you can. Limit your blue light, especially after dark. And eat healthy foods and beverages that increase your easy water production, like green smoothies and things like ghee and MCT oil, coconut oil, and I think olive oil as well, and choline from the egg whites, all those kinds of things, maple water, coconut water, and so they're all super important. But mostly, we want to reconnect with Mother Earth, get on the ground, walk on the beach, take your shoes off, no rubber soles when you're doing this, sit on the ground, practice yoga, deep breathing, meditation, and eat healthier, whole, real foods, and just basically combine all of these things, and there's no thing that you shouldn't be able to self-apply to improve your health. And so just remember, we are light, water, and it's very important to stay connected to Mother Earth. So follow the river, follow the stream, for it will surpass your wildest dreams, and take no path but the one in your mind, and leave nothing but a wild legacy behind. So until next time, get outdoors and go wild, and follow your wildest dreams. Thank you. You can follow me on wildwomanoutdoors.com and Kellie Nightlinger at yahoo.com and all over social media.